Bro, welcome back, channel. Well, it's kind of dirty, but sitting in the weeds here is a Magnum engine. So I never really thought of this as a candidate for the Coronet, but looking it over further here, it's all complete. I pulled it out of a truck, a 93 Dodge truck, and it is multi-port fuel injected, but I have the ECM and everything. It doesn't look like it's that hard to actually get this thing wired up, so I'm kind of thinking about budget slapping this thing in the 68. I'm going to bring it into town with a little bit of work, a little bit of research. This would be much cooler of a swap than dropping a 2-barrel LA engine in it. So I'll keep you posted. We're going to get this thing loaded up and check it out. Okay, so we got the Magnum engine. This is a Magnum 5.2 in the garage on a stand, all covered in junk from sitting in the grass. So cross your fingers, this thing is good. I'm going to go ahead and take the wiring harness off the coolant lines. I'm going to pull the intake off and just have a good inspection on the engine. The alternator sees, so a bunch of the front cover and stuff I'm going to get pulled off there, get cleaned up. I got to change the oil pan and stuff to get it swapped into the car. Okay, I got the Magnum stripped down, all the parts off it. Kind of figured out what's good, what's not good. Engine inside is actually in awesome shape, so that's a bonus. So I'm going to make an order, get some gaskets coming, figure out the oil pan situation. I think I need to order one or maybe do some custom modification to save some moolah. And then I got the harness here and I got a Dodge service manual, so I'm going to go ahead and open the book up, look through it, see what I got to pull out of this harness, see what I can keep. Okay, so I have the 318 LA pan sitting on the Magnum block. You can see the rear crank seal has a massive gap in it. Here's our oil pan. So you have to use a 360 LA pan on the Magnum, but I didn't have one of those, but I did have my LA 318 pan and the Magnum pan. So the Magnum actually has a smaller rear crank seal. So what I did is just graft the two pans together. I also swapped the pickups because my 318 LA pickup is different, obviously, for the car pan, and the oil pump was shot on the 318 LA motor. So the Magnum one is good, so I set that up for this oil pan. Now you can see on the inside here, I've TIG welded this all together. You can see the Magnum rear crank seal. Hey everyone. So lots going on here. I just got back from pick and pull in Calgary and I picked this clean intake with this real nice throttle body on it, good injectors. This is off of a later model Magnum engine, so it has a returnless fuel system. The 93 engine I'm using has the return pressure regulator in the actual return line, so it has a return line to the tank, unlike the newer ones, which is nice because it's self-regulating with vacuum. So I'm going to run these fuel rails, but I'm going to run this intake with these newer injectors. This whole setup kind of got left out in the rain, so I don't trust it. But I'm going to go ahead and take the heads off, get this engine cleaned up, slap it back together with all the pan and new gaskets and everything, and the new intake after everything's cleaned up. give it a paint job, and the engine will be done, good to go. I'm also going to, but going to now pull the 727 out. I have a couple of these A518, these 46RH overdrive lockup gas transmissions, and I definitely want to get that rigged up in here. So I'm going to see what it takes, whether I have to modify the floor pans or anything, and I'll keep you posted on that. But as you can see, we pulled the wheels off, checked the brakes. I'm going to put new brake cylinders in, new brake hoses in the front, new master cylinder, just to get the brakes working properly, because that is key when you're being safe, when you're safe on the road. Yeah, also pulled the fuel tank out, gonna get it ready for the new fuel pump. It's got the Magnum strip pretty much right down. This thing, like I had mentioned, had been sitting in the rain for a couple of years. So I also got an engine gas kit for really cheap, so I figured it'd be worthwhile pulling the heads, checking it all out, making sure nothing's out of the ordinary, rusty and whatnot. While I wait for the gaskets to show up for the engine, I have the transmission. So this is the transmission that was bolted to the 5.2. It's a 46RH or A518, a lockup overdrive gas model. Transmission should work great. I know I have to modify the floor and stuff, so we'll get to that action. For now, I pulled the pump out just to check the pump out, make sure it was good. Pulled the pan and the filter off, pulled the valve body out just to check everything over. I didn't know much about this transmission. The bands were kind of loose, so I set the bands. I got a filter, I'm gonna put the valve body back in, I got the pump back in already, and yeah, put the new filter on, put the pan on, clean this thing totally up. Once that's done and this is on the ground, I'm gonna go ahead and make some measurements of the drive shaft and whatnot right now while the 727 is still in here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out, pull the cross member out and kind of start eyeballing the floor, see where I gotta cut. I think you have to widen the torsion bar cross member to fit this large overdrive housing here. Okay guys, our oil pan that we built is actually looking awesome. You can see there the seal is nice and pinched. Guys, we're making really good progress on the engine. We got the heads on, intake on, the rockers back in, push rods, oil pans on, front covers on with the new crank seal. Everything's looking super good. All the bolts are torqued down. I'm gonna get the valve covers bolted on next. They're sitting right there. And then I'm gonna put the fuel injectors in and the fuel rail, and then see how it looks. All right, here are the fuel injectors. So I'm gonna rip all the old O-rings off. I have new AC Delico O-rings. Got some Molly. I did a test run on the first one and popped right in there. So I'm gonna get all the injectors in with the new O-rings, and then I have the fuel rail, which I painted and cleaned totally up. Got the fuel lines disconnected, so I got couplers for these. I'll explain the fuel system later, but let's get that thing on. There we go. Fuel system is intact. Rails and injectors are in, bolted. Man, it's looking good. I'm set up to pull the tranny out. You can see I have a jack underneath the transmission. So what I'm doing is kind of replicating it being bolted to the engine. I'm going to take note of where the rear yoke is so I can kind of have a measurement for where I want the new transmission for the drive shaft angle. Also, I got a strap wrapped around the front, just holding it up. So I'm going to actually get my trans jack under there, take the strap off, pull the drive shaft, pull all the linkages off, taking note of where they go so I can put them back on the new transmission, see if we can swap some of this stuff over. Also, we have the two engines side by side. So here's the old 318. The oil pump blew up, you know the story, and the new Magnum. So I got the dampener and the pulley on. I'm waiting for a water pump and some of the other front accessory drives and the belt and plugs, and waiting for a distributor cap. But this is how she sits right now. It looks awesome. I love how the paint scheme turned out. Hemi orange, satin black rails, and bead blasted intake. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get this trans dropped out, and we'll put the trans beside the new trans and kind of look at the differences and see what we got to do. Thought I'd give you a shot of the factory cross member in place. So that's with the drive shaft installed. So there's the two bolts on each side for this cross member. This is kind of where the overdrive of the new transmission is going to sit. So it's obviously a lot fatter. So we'll be cutting lots of this out, probably moving these two bolt holes over this way. So anyway, I'm going to get the drive shaft off, pull the cross member, drop the trans down, and we'll get a good look at them. Guys, got the tranny out, looking at the cross member here. See some spot welds. I'm going to drill these spot welds out that are attached to the cross member underneath the floorboards here, and then I'll trim my square out of where I have to widen this for the overdrive housing. Okay, so I've set the transmission side by side. This is the 46 RH for the Magnum engine, and this is the regular old small block 727. So you can see this 3-speed, the overdrive unit is bolted on the back here, so that's why it's so large. Now it looks like we can make our measurement for our drive shaft, so we'll do that. This pan's also a little bit deeper, so the transmission appears a little bit taller, but overall, there's lots of stuff the same. This is the hole that you're supposed to drill in the 727 if you're going to run it for the crank sensor on the back of the Magnum engine. Now I'm using this 46, so I don't have to do that, but there is that for reference if you are going to keep your 727. Even the speedometer cable pickup, they both are mechanical, which is good because I can thread the cable from the speedometer right into this 46, and it should spin the speedometer. So no, looks super cool. I'm gonna get this one on a stand and actually roll it underneath there and jack it up and kind of get a visual of it. The cross members and the mounts are basically in the same location. You can see this one right there, and it lines up about directly with this one. There's two bolts right under here. So I'm gonna be using a Chevy puck mount for like a Turbo 400, Turbo 350. And we're going to build our own cross member. This is the factory cross member. The mount sits down into this pocket, and we're going to build kind of the same idea. So where the mount is on the 727, it has the width of roughly 4.5 inches, and you come straight across the overdrive hosing, and the overdrive hosing has the width of close to 8 inches. So we'll take that into the car here. You can see 8 inches is basically the width of this whole entire thing. So we're gonna cut it out, make our own. I think I'm gonna use 2-inch C channel and maybe cap it at the end. But we're gonna have to move these. We're gonna have to move these bolt holes back on each side. So I'll probably cut an inch or maybe 2 inches out of each side and bring that right back, and then build my new rainbow over top. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this cut out and lift the tranny up in there and see what we're working with. That's enough stuff for the first video. We got lots of progress done, got the engine kind of together, gonna get more parts and pieces in the mail to get it totally complete, drop in the car. We got the floor cut out. It is looking good. The car is torn apart. It's gonna be great. Stay tuned for part 2. Lots more action on double barrel garage. Shout out Kevin for making me this custom hat. It's sick. Okay, talk to you later.